Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Kay Unscripted. This is Kay, and today you already know we're going to be talking about the Traitors USA Season 4, Episode 6. Now, before we get into this episode, please go ahead and like this video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel because this episode was very juicy, and y'all, let's talk about what went down.
Kay Unscripted, no teens restricted. In this journey, watch our stories unfold.
So we know, as always, we don't get to see who the traitors decide to murder. So it's breakfast time in the castle. We see the first group come in. It's Maura, Christine, and Rob. Now, I don't know what's their obsession with salmon, but that's all Maura's been talking about, right? They get to talking about Ron and that he's still on everyone's radar. The next group comes in. It's Tara, Lisa, Candice, and Mark. Lisa knows that her name has been brought up and she's hoping to sprinkle just a little bit of housewife to the show because she ain't the one to mess with. We're going to see what happens later on with that. So the next group comes in is Stephen, Natalie, Johnny, and Ron. They also get to discussing, but truthfully, no one really knows what happens except the traitors, if someone took a shield or not. So everyone's just speculating on whether they think that someone took a shield or not. The last group comes in and it's Colton, Jam, Dorinda, and Eric, which means that no one was murdered and everyone is ecstatic, everyone is happy. We see the deliberation with the traitors from the night before. Alan walks in and tells them that the faithfuls did not scoop any shields, so there will be no murder happening. Of course, Lisa is not thrilled because she wants Colton gone. But they also discuss the possibility that it may be Ron going up next to be banished. So back at breakfast, the traitors and the faithfuls, they all take a toast to surviving through the night, with Alan making his grand entrance, and he lets them know that everyone made it through the night. He says something about the mission and then he leaves the room. Then we see Colton whispering to Dorinda, asking her how she feels about Lisa. He's telling her that he wants her to observe Lisa because he knows that Dorinda is loyal to Lisa and she sometimes has blinders when it comes to someone that she's loyal to. He has another gut feeling, which he's not wrong about, but he's not sure how to go about doing it since he was wrong about Natalie. So he says that this time he's being a little bit more careful. So there's a group together. It's Stephen, Colton, Candice, Jam, Eric, Dorinda, and Lisa, who ends up coming in after. Stephen mentions that the name on his list to be banished is Ron. Dorinda then says that from her observation of Ron, one moment he's precise and verbal, and in another moment he's really quiet and observant, and she thinks that's definitely traitor behavior. Stephen then asks if anyone has anything else to determine if Ron is a traitor, and we see Lisa responding, just pretty much saying, no. And it's definitely giving that she's being careful what she says and how she says things because she knows that Colton is onto her and he's right there in the room observing her every move. Colton then says that they have to be more mindful, that when he gets up there, he might say that he's a faithful and that's scary to him. He also said that he feels like Ron was the perfect setup from the first night, just like Michael was. But I'm like, Colton, but you were the one pushing Michael's name out there, so I'm a little bit confused about your theory. Anyways, we see a conversation between Ron and Rob as they're playing chess, and Ron pretty much says that, well, who are you thinking for the round table? Because he already knows that he's the one who's going to be voted off. Rob said that this is what makes the game difficult because once you get to know someone and you start liking them, you have to vote someone out and it may end up being someone that you like. He then asks Ron if he's ever heard anyone mention his name. I don't know where that came from. That sounded a little bit suspicious to me if I were Ron. But Ron said no, and to which Rob said, well, they all think I'm just a dumb guy from Alabama, which to me would have been a clue that Rob is saying that he's a traitor. But Ron tells him he doesn't think he's a traitor because he feels like Rob is always thinking 10 steps ahead and he knows that he's just being himself. And I thought that was a really nice thing for Ron to say, but the gag is Rob is a traitor. Now, in the library, there's Johnny, Mark, Maura, Tara, and Christine, who later joins them. But I'm happy to see more personality come from Johnny because in the beginning, he was looking like a lost goose. Anyways, he says that with 8 faithfuls that they trust, they can swing the votes around at the round table. Mark is saying that based on how things have gone so far, his two opinions of persons to go up to be voted are Ron or Colton. He said, had things not gone down so chaotic at the last round table, Ron would have been the one sent home and not Michael, but we all know Michael had no self-control, so he had to go and the people wanted peace. Then we see Colton and Natalie having a conversation. He's telling her that he has a name, but he wants to keep it hush-hush. He reveals that he wants Lisa out. He mentions the unspoken rule of going against another housewife because Lisa voted for Portia. Natalie also says that she peeped that Lisa didn't vote for Donna and how she's acting all angelic. Colton says that this is not the Lisa he's heard about. And he also said that Dorinda agreed with him. He comes up with a plan with Natalie to clock who's starting to move away from Lisa if they start name dropping her as a traitor, and also who takes up for Lisa. Now, y'all, it gets spicy. The moment Lisa, Dorinda, Candice, and Ron joined Natalie and Colton, here's what he said. Oh, it's the housewives sticking together. How convenient. But clearly he was gunning for Lisa because he said, oh, I'm so glad you don't have your sunglasses on today so I can look you straight into your eyes. So Lisa said, well, what do you want to see? Y'all, Colton said, my future. It was definitely giving a Miss Cleo moment because what the hell is wrong with Colton? Do y'all think he's coming off a little too strong? Because I think he's being a bit aggressive and I don't like it. Let me know what your thoughts are on Colton's behavior. So it's time for the mission, and clearly Colton is not dropping his Lisa theory. He wants to let everybody in on Lisa being a traitor. He tells the people in his car that if he's not at breakfast the next day, then it's because Lisa is a traitor and she murdered him. He says he wants this to stay between them, and then he asks Rob what he thinks about Lisa. Rob said, well, it's plausible, and of course he has to act like he's a faithful because somehow, apparently, Rob has an alliance with Colton and he cares about Colton so much, so he doesn't want to go against Colton. So whatever Colton says goes, which is what we've seen happening so far. So they get to the woods and they're greeted by Alan, who fills them in on the mission. They're given a series of cryptic clues. Each clue includes the name of a soul buried in the cabin's graveyard. Two players must then stand in front of the gravestone of who they believe the clue belongs to. Each correct clue will be awarded $3,000, which potentially leaves the total of $18,000 to be added to the prize pot. He also says that there are 2 shields hidden in the grave, but anyone who takes a shield, money will be deducted from the prize pot, so they must be careful with which player they send outside. Now everyone heads into the cabin and everyone sat at a table. They get to discussing if they're going to take the shield or not take the shield, and the group is not really in agreement as to taking a shield or not taking a shield. Natalie, out of nowhere, starts yelling, if anyone takes a shield, they will be banished. And I personally feel like that was really harsh. I didn't feel like that was her place because shields are there to protect you. And if someone feels like they need to get protection, they should get a shield. I don't think you should be dictating and telling anyone, don't take a shield. Anyways, they get to their first clue and it's words that must be unscrambled. Tara and Candice run out of the cabin to find the person whose gravestone they unscrambled the name to. Now, when they left the cabin, it was actually Jam Jam who said Louis Clark, but it was actually Louis Black. So they lock in the answer for Louis Clark, but once they confirm, they see a hand pushed out of the grave with $3,000 from Louis Black's grave, and they soon find out that they were wrong. They were obviously disappointed because they heard Louis Clark. Now the cabin goes into total darkness and a woman is screaming, drenched in blood. Next thing you know, the walls are dripping with blood too, which was the second clue. They figure out the name from this clue as Jack Stone. Jam Jam and Mora run out to find the tombstone, and once they get to the graveside, Jam Jam sees a grave with a shield. He is tempted to take it, but Mora tells him, remember, Natalie said anybody who takes a shield will be banished, and so they agreed to not take the shield. He was pissed off because the man wanted a shield, right? Anyways, they call out the name Jack Stone, and they were right. They bagged $3,000 and they were sent back to the castle. So they get their third clue, which came from a typewriter. They figured it out. The name is Dorothy Dockin. So Lisa and Mac ran out to find the tombstone, and they were right. They too bagged $3,000 and were headed back to the castle. The next clue comes from a doll that's singing out letters. And we saw last season, there was something similar to that. They had to sing out the rhythm. So they changed it around. That was good. So the group did figure out the name, which was Bertie Singh. Dorinda and Johnny were the two who went out to find the tombstone, and they were correct and bagged $3,000. They too went back to the castle. The next clue was Dale Cross, which was found by Colton and Kristen, and they too also got this one correct and bagged another $3,000. The next clue, or the name for the next clue, was Valentine Spring. It was Natalie and Steven who found it, and they were also right about this one. The total won for the game was $15,000. So the remaining players were Rob, Ron, and Eric. Alan let them know the amount of money that was won and also let them know that no one took a shield. So everyone's back at the castle, and it's Tara, Candice, Jam Jam, and Mora having a conversation together. Mora's telling them, like, didn't y'all hear Natalie say if anyone took a shield, they'd be banished? She was saying that was harsh, right? And I do agree with her. That was a bit harsh. I didn't like that at all. But Jam Jam is telling them, y'all, I was thinking about it, and I was actually tempted to take a shield. So they all started laughing about it. Then we see a side conversation between Johnny and Mark. They want to get Colton out, but clearly everyone wants Ron out. Then we see another conversation between Candice, Rob, Eric, Lisa, and Steven. Rob says he doesn't think that Ron is a traitor because the more he's gotten to know him, and he also asked him a bunch of questions, he looked him straight in the eye, he just doesn't feel like Ron is lying to him. Meanwhile, there's another group with Johnny, Mark, Tara, Maura, Eric, and Christine, and they're talking about taking Colton out, but they need more votes. They're in the library and they're discussing the possibility of voting Colton out, but they're missing persons to make up the votes. So they pull in Rob and ran the idea by him, but Rob is saying, guys, this is what we've been doing, having a gut feeling and switching up. Clearly, he's Team Colton, so he has to defend his guy. And I don't know if that's going to come back to haunt Rob in the behind, because he's definitely switching up. Now, Colton pulls Lisa for a chat, and he says in his confessional that he's come up with this strategy that he's going to hold Lisa hostage. And I just feel like that's a bit much for me. I don't know, y'all. The game's getting a little too personal in my opinion. But anyway, he tells Lisa that he's voting for Ron, and she says that she's also voting for Ron. He then tells her that he wants to win the game with her. Baby Lisa was shook. She was shook because Colton said he's going to protect her at the round table if she protects him in the turret. And I know my flabber was gasted, so I know Lisa was definitely flabbergasted. Y'all, I'm telling you, I was shocked. I didn't expect Colton to say that at all. He then tells her, oh, it's okay. I know you can't say if you're a traitor. Don't worry about it, Lisa. Lisa is like, well, what are you talking about? Because I'm a faithful. Colton tells her some things aren't adding up for him. And he says, well, for instance, the Porsche vote just didn't make sense to me. And she's like, well, what else? So he has this big grin on his face. And he's like, yeah, I have her where I want her. He's clearly pulling Lisa's strings. He's pressing her buttons. He's trying to get a reaction out of Lisa. Lisa says, Colton, look here, you're backing up the wrong tree because I think it's you who's the traitor. And we're just seeing Colton having this big grin on his face and he's just smiling away. Now, I'm about ready for the round table because I need to know what's about to happen. So Alan comes in and lets them know that the floors is theirs. It's now time to talk. And for a hot minute, y'all, it was just quiet. Mark, for the first time, says that Ron's name has come up for the past couple of round tables, and he just wants him to have an opportunity to say what he needs to convince them otherwise. Now, I did like how Mark didn't forget to name drop Colton. I like that. I thought that was really intentional. Ron, however, responds by saying that they all have voted incorrectly, but they choose to only punish him. He said he's been very consistent, and if he doesn't like you, he's sure going to let it known that he doesn't like you. He doesn't hide that. So the Rinna then says, well, the rules of the game isn't about not liking someone. It's about engaging in some way. So to not do that, it sort of makes it difficult. Ron says he totally disagrees with her and doesn't feel like they can interact in a way that's respectful. Now, y'all, I don't know what's going on between these two, but you can clearly tell that Ron doesn't like Dorinda and she's just returning the favor too. I don't know what's going on between these two. Colton then says that banishing Ron gives them more answers that they've been able to get from him. And when I tell y'all, I love the way Ron dragged Colton. I enjoyed every single moment. Let me tell you, I loved it. I loved every second of it. Because he said, but you've been wrong a couple of times too, Colton. You were wrong with Michael. But because we don't like Michael, we don't count it. But because everyone all of a sudden loves Portia, you all are down my throat about it. And to sum it all up, he said, any more questions? And yeah, that definitely shut Colton up. Now, Christine makes a brave move and says to Colton, well, if you're going to hold Ron accountable, we should also hold you, Colton, accountable because you have also swayed the votes. You do some kind of reverse engineering and see if it sticks and you get us to vote. And now everyone starts speaking up. Johnny then said he feels like a puppet. Now Eric is telling them he sort of rushed them into the vote. Maura jumps in and says, well, if you were a traitor, it would be very dangerous because everyone listens to you. Colton says while he is playing reckless and bold, he is playing as a faithful. And y'all, tell me why Rob said, I believe you. Rob, what are you doing? Rob is working my nerves. What are you doing? Guys, do we think that Rob is about to flip on his fellow traitors? Oh my god. Now you can tell that Ron is tired too. He tells them, y'all can just go ahead and write my name down so y'all can get all the clarity that y'all need. But let me just go around the table to say my goodbye. Now, as he's going around giving everyone their props, Tara stops for the first time because we never hear Tara's voice. She stops them and says, well, y'all, I need to get something off my chest. I just don't think it's Ron. And a few of the others co-sign that they don't think Ron is a traitor. Natalie then says they don't need to use Ron as an easy vote and to end up sacrificing another faithful. Now, y'all, here comes Colton saying that he does have a name that they can use to take Ron's place. And he looks over to Lisa and says, I did try to talk to you about it. And he says he doesn't know much about housewives, but he knows for sure that you never go against another housewife. And that vote from Lisa just never sat right with him. Baby. Lisa said, and your point? Y'all, when I tell y'all, I was holding my breath so much for this conversation. And honestly, I really did expect Lisa to come in saying, by the way, Colton told me that he will protect me at the round table if I protect him at the in the turret, and Harry is for me ended up, something like that. I feel like that would have got people seeing a different side to Colton. But anyways, Lisa said, well, I think you're a traitor. Colton tells Lisa he thinks that she's a traitor. Now, no matter what Lisa said, Colton wasn't backing down. He keeps telling Lisa that she was acting sheepish in all of the games, and that's just not her personality. He says with everything in him, he doesn't think that Ron is a traitor, but he thinks Lisa is. Now, Alan comes in and says that's enough talking, it's time to vote. And I was so nervous, y'all, because when everyone started saying who they voted for, I was thoroughly confused because I thought the group would have went to vote Colton out because that's what they came into the round table to do. But it was literally 5 votes for Ron, 5 votes for Lisa, and 4 for Colton. Mark had the deciding vote and he voted for Ron, which means that Ron was banished from the game. Now, at the moment of truth, he does reveal that he is a faithful, and of course, they look so disappointed. Once Alan exits the room, Colton starts whispering to Lisa and tells her he will take them both down just to get her out of the game. And again, Colton is doing a little too much for my liking. My God, he is coming too hard on Lisa. He's playing a game too aggressive. At this point, it's a little creepy to me. Now, when he said that, Lisa told him, well, bring it on, Colton. You want to see our housewife? I'll show you one. If that's what you want, I can do it. Yes, Lisa, unleash on him and don't miss him at all. Oh my goodness, I am tired of Colton. Now they get out from the round table room, and of course, we know people are going to spread out. We see a discussion with Lisa, Candice, Natalie, Dorinda, and Natalie's saying, well, do you understand where Colton was coming from with the whole Portia thing? Lisa said, no, I don't. I just went with my gut. Candice also chimes in and says that they need to stop letting Colton sway the votes. Now, just as they were having this discussion, Colton walks into the room and Lisa says, look here, Colton, I am so much more than a housewife. So he says, I know, girl. You're so confident, you're an icon, you're a legend, and I expected you to be more of that. So she said, okay, that's right, you expect it. Guess what? I am more than a housewife. I was Lisa effing Rinna before Housewives, and I am still Lisa effing Rinna after Housewives, period. He then says to all the traitors in the room, moving forward, I'm going to take every single shield that I find. I'm going to make it impossible for y'all to murder me. So y'all better use your opportunity y'all have tonight to take me out. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is exhausting. So we then find out that Alan had already put the traitors on because he said that there's a banquet. So he already told them about the banquet because murder will be happening in plain sight, another plain sight murder. He shows them a box with a piece of jewelry and says one of them must wait, and the first faithful to touch the amulet will be cursed to death. Now they must decide among themselves which one of the three will be wearing it at the banquet, and Lisa volunteers to wear it. She feels that she'll be able to pull it off. Back to reality, Lisa, Candice, and Rob end up together, and he said that everyone knows he trusts Colton, so voting for him would make him look really bad. Now, everyone heads to their room to get ready for the banquet, and we're going to have to wait for the next episode to find out what goes down. I did not like what Rob did, and I really didn't buy his excuse. I feel like that made him look a lot more suspicious because tagging with someone who's been wrong it's not making sense. It's going to make him stand out next. Now I'm nervous. I'm scared. How about you? What are you feeling about this episode? Please share all of your thoughts with me. Let's talk about it. This has been my recap for the Traitors USA Season 4, Episode 6. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and like the video, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.